So I am going to just write this a little bit neater. In other words, I'm not going to write so many invalid statements. I'm only going to have one, but I'm going to complicate my if statement. And the way I'm going to complicate it is by, for each one of these, I'm going to write an and in here. And space equals -1. So it's only going to be true and print that the email is valid when all of these are true. So let me copy that. So I'm going to say and done that one. Let me copy that. It's still very messy. I'm going to have to widen things. Get rid of that. I've got one more to do. And that. And if I do all of those, then I can just pinch that piece of code and put it there and have one single else statement, pinch that piece of code, and put that there, and the rest of it I can delete. So now I've checked everything. So all of these have to be true for it to print out that the email is valid. If any one of these becomes false, then it's invalid. So I can run my tests again. So I've got AAB, so that should be a valid email. Just close this down so that we can run it. Let's make sure it's an invalid email, so let's have the at the end. There we go, invalid. Let's have the at in the middle. Now, what's going to happen here, because I've got an at there and an at the end, that should be an invalid email. There we go. If I take the at from the end, so that's now a valid email. There we go. So let's just check it out with one. Oh, one that we didn't test was an empty one. Okay, so let's run that with an empty email address. Wow, now we've got a problem. And there's a special way of dealing with that, but at the moment we will just leave it as it is. Okay. So the empty one is going to give us a problem. So let's have one with just a single space in. And there we go, it's invalid. Now the reason why it gave us the error message is because of this line here. The first character checked email at position 0, but there was no position 0. And in fact, this one would also make it fail. So we'd have to write some code to make sure these two lines never worked if we had an empty email. But we'll deal with that at some other point. So at the moment, I've got a program which is going to check everything but for an empty one. So let's comment out that line and uncomment that so that we're getting the email from the user. So now you can put in any email address that you want. So let's run it. Please enter an email address, sir at school.com. The email is valid. Run it again. Please enter an email address, sir space at space school.com. Invalid. So there's our first program. Quite challenging, particularly with this one line and the way that we've handled all of the variables to find out what was true and what was false. We've got one error that we need to deal with. That is when we've got an empty string. But other than that, the main part is that we have used some string manipulation to find out the length of a string, to find out whether a character exists in a string. Use that twice. And we've looked at the index or the position in a string to find out if something is there. And in fact, in this last one, we did a little bit of maths to know that whatever the length of the string was, the last character was 1 back, because the string started at 0. It started counting from 0. So this is our first little play with some string handling.